Good afternoon, everyone, for joining, and thanks for joining us for I think we're on our fourth Lunch and Learn today. Today we are joined with Kristel Manes, the Executive Director for the Business Center, Guelph-Wellington, and we are going to have a quick conversation about the entrepreneurial mindset. So what you need to do, how you need to think if you're looking to become a business owner. So, Kristel, thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thank you.
I will let you introduce yourself and we can go from there.
All right. So hi there. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Kristel. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I am the Executive Director of the Business Center. I've been very happy and proud to be a member of the center for many years, and super happy about this. And thanks, Angie, for coming up with this idea to connect on Facebook and connect with our clients, because it's really important that we get asked questions all the time. So when you can bring it to one space and one time and sort of answer a bunch of questions, then it helps everybody. So happy to be here today.
And just for anybody who's watching now or watching later on YouTube, if you have any questions or comments, please just throw them in the chat and I'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll also provide you any resources at that point too. So how would you start off by thinking about being an entrepreneur?
Lots to think about, actually. and thanks. So I've had the pleasure of owning 4 different businesses. I'm on my 5th business besides the work I do at the center. I know you're a business owner as well, Angie, and you've been very engaged in your own business, as well as all the great work that you do for the business center. And so I think that really actually starts the point. It's entrepreneurship is not, I always say it's not for the faint of heart. It is hard work, and it takes a lot of time and energy to invest in. And so one of the first things I always encourage people to think about when you start to think about perhaps owning your own business is it really requires you to think about, let's just put it this way, entrepreneurship is not 9 to 5. It's not Monday to Friday. It's 24/7. And we always talk about when you're not working in your business, you're working on your business, especially in the first couple of years. It is absolutely critical, the time and energy that you're spending in order to get things going and sort of stimulated and moving forward, right? Because ultimately, we want to get the business making money and producing and doing all the things that we want it to do. So that's one of the first things is sort of that. So I do have some characteristics that would help, Angie, just to sort of share with you my experience over 15 plus, let's just leave it at that, years of working with entrepreneurs. I think first and foremost, passion is a big deal. You have to really do what you love and love what you do. And so when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, because you're going to be spending a lot of time in it, you really want to pick something that is really something you enjoy and want to be around, because you're going to be fully immersed in it and you can't get sick of it, right? You can't just say, oh, I've had enough of this. So it has to be something that you really love. And I think that passion really helps get you through difficult times, when things aren't going as smoothly. It kind of always brings us back, because if you have that passion and purpose, then there's a reason for you to keep going, right? So
I completely agree. Yeah, I've seen some people who attempted their first businesses and multiple businesses where it was something that they're like, this will make me money, but they've had no passion or desire for that industry at all, and it just didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it can't be. Confidence is another great one. You have to, and certainly there's a lot of fear and trepidation when you think about journeying out into entrepreneurship. And that's perfectly natural and normal. Believe me, I as I mentioned, I'm on my 5th business, and there's days when I'm thinking, what am I doing? Why did I do this again? But it's having that confidence to be sure about yourself and your intention, and really being, it's not a cockiness. It's a real clear definition of, I know what I want to do. I know how I want to get there. I'm going to follow the road steps, and I'm going to keep my head down and keep going, right? Because things aren't going to go smoothly. You will be tried with your confidence level. I can assure you of that. When you get lots of no's and things like that happen sometimes, or things don't go to plan, that's when that confidence and believing in yourself really helps continue forward, right? Yeah. Management skills is another thing. People, leadership skills, understanding. You don't have to be a leader per se, but you have to know how to organize your time. You have to really be understanding project management skills are really great. Understanding some financial skills. Certainly you have to have a wherewithal. You certainly want to come to this business with some experience, some wisdom, some understanding about the particular type of business that you're trying to open. Sometimes I see people who will say, well, I'm going to start this business, but then I'm going to hire people and they're going to work for me. And it doesn't work that way. It's really critical and important to start the business right with your own understanding and your skill set, and then build it from there, right? So that's kind of one of the things. Flexibility, agility. As you know, Angie, not everything goes to plan, right? And sometimes we have to be willing to get out of our own way, step back very objectively and say, you know what? Oh, okay, so plan A didn't work. Plan B is not so good. I need to have plan C, D, E, F, G, right? Because, those commitments need to be made. I need to pay my employees. Things will happen. And so being flexible and agile. Hey, look at COVID. I mean, nobody knew 2 years ago what was going to happen in this world. And yet that flexibility and agility for those companies to be able to sort of pivot their business models and change things up was a crucial characteristic and skill that they needed in order to survive, right? So that's some of those things. So you have to be really flexible and be willing to, not so ingrained in stone, because I can tell you it wouldn't be that
I was going to say, we've both seen it with not even just with COVID, but just in general of like getting into business and thinking somebody's your client and it not being your client, or thinking one of your products or services are going to be the thing that hits and they don't, but some other product or service is the thing that seems to be drawing to people. And you're going, oh, so now I have to deal with this instead.
You have to be flexible. You can't just go, oh, well, I don't want to do it that way, because you've got to be flexible about it, right? I mentioned about finances. Now, certainly, financial, understanding is definitely a base point. You will find that some people running businesses will choose not to do their own accounting or book work, and that's perfectly okay. I always say to people, pick your poison, pick what you're really good at, that it's going to make money. And there are people that you can, a bookkeeper or something to hire to help keep you accountable for your book work. But you do need to understand it. When you see the paperwork, you see what kind of money is coming in, what kind of money is going out with paying bills. But I would also say too, that understanding that you need to have these important conversations, so that if you are looking for financing, or if you're looking for any investment, having the conversation with a banker, it's really important to understand where you're getting your revenue numbers from, what kind of expenses that you expect to spend, because they're going to want to know that before they go ahead and give you a loan, or before they go ahead and give you any type of capital to support your venture. They need to know, because they want their return on their investment. They're not giving it to you for free, as we know. So being knowledgeable about what the right way to say it, what right way to frame the conversation. And that's something that we can do. Our business advisors are well versed in that space, and they can help you have those, structure a conversation that would work for you. And I would also
daunting. I was going to say,
it is daunting. And Angie, you and I've talked about this many times. People forget about working capital as well. So it's one thing to have the equipment and the expenses covered, things like that. But what about the everyday money? Because when you're starting a new business, you're not going to be granted credit. Suppliers, or they're not going to give you automatic, oh, sure, no problem, put it on here, we'll pay later. That doesn't happen. It takes a while to establish your credit with a supplier or somebody who's giving you product or service. So in the meantime, you have to be able to still pay your bills, right? The rent is still due. You still have to, bring that product off the truck and put it on your shelves and things like that. So you need what we call working capital. And I will say, in my experience of working entrepreneurs for all these years, that's the place where people fall down. They underfinance themselves at the beginning of the business, and they rely too heavy on financing from outside sources, including grants. And may I just burst that bubble right now and say, there are not a lot of small business grants. They are just not there. We get calls and emails every day about this. They're few and far between, folks. So we really teach our clients how to bootstrap, how to build with capacity and build from the ground up, right? That's a really important thing.
Well, because especially being like statistically, I think it's like 90% of businesses that fail within their first year, it's because they didn't bother checking their 100%. Finances or having an idea. So they aren't able to act on it. That's the thing. Like if you aren't paying attention to your finances, how are you going to adjust or pivot as you move forward if something's costed incorrectly or any other potential problems that could come up with.
Look what's happening now as we move out of, into COVID recovery. Prices have gone through the roof. Anybody go through a grocery store recently? My goodness, look at the price. Hey, look at the gas pumps. Holy smokes.
Oh, wow.
the businesses are going to be feeling this as well. So don't be surprised when you're walking in and dealing with local businesses that you're going to see some increases happening there as well. They can't survive otherwise. They have to.
Well, and world events that keep happening. We're not slowing down on world events, and so you need to be prepared that might affect it somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got a couple more networking skills. It's really important to understand, just to be able to talk to people, because you are your business. For most of you will be starting out on your own, and so it's important that you get out and meet people and talk to people, share about your business idea, share, here's what I'm all about, to make connections. And so, but again, also being very targeted in where you do that. So we talk a lot about it in our courses that we offer, about being selective about networking, making sure that if you are going and spending time at networking events, that it is the people that attend those events are relative to your target audience, right? Because we don't want to spend time with somebody who's not going to purchase from us, or we can't build that buying, selling relationship with, right? It's a waste of your time. You could be doing other things. So being very focused and intentful, but it's really important to be able to have a conversation with somebody. I have business cards in my pocket because I am that person. I'm sorry if it's been you that I bugged you, but if you've been standing in a grocery store line, I do have conversations with people, and they're always like, hey, you know what? I never heard about the business center. Okay, do you have a card? I do have a card. Here you go. So it becomes important to just have those and be able to be willing to talk about it and share. It's exciting. It's interesting. I got two more, Angie.
Yeah, no, we have lots of time.
One. That staying power of, again, you fall down, you got to get up. That grit is something that you're going to face a lot of uphill battles some days, and you're just going to think, oh my goodness. And you might want to just, why am I bothering getting out of bed? I'm just going to roll over and forget about it. And you can't do that. It's hard work. The good news is every year you're in business, your operating efficiencies, how you streamline things, how you will increase every year. So you get better and better at what you do every year you're in business, right? You get processes streamlined. Maybe you have employees come on board. You have lots of help coming in. So it does get easier, but that grit is really important in the first year of business. It's absolutely crucial in order for you to stay. And I would say the last sort of characteristic that I feel is really important is to be fearless, right? It kind of goes along with the confidence piece, but really being not risk adverse, right? Because you're going to come up with a lot of, you're standing on an edge, and I have the pleasure of meeting a lot of entrepreneurs, and, they're on the edge of greatness. And it's just like, you got to be fearless. You got to jump, you've done the work to put all the pieces in place and all the supports in place. And that's what we do at the Business Center every day. So I know Angie talks about our stuff, and I'm sure she'll refer to it again, but our programs, our workshops, our one-on-one with the advisors are meant to support you before you jump. Okay. But, in the meantime, you can't be afraid to jump, because if you don't, it's the thing. But what if there's a saying, it says, but darling, what if I fall? And it's like, yeah, but what if you fly? Right. So unless you actually pursue that, then you're never going to know. So those are definitely some characteristics, I would say, that are really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, from some of those, there's been some conversations I've had with some other business owners over the past and things that I've seen come up too. And one of them I thought was fascinating, was not realizing they're not willing to take the risk, but they're already doing it. Yeah. So I've met a few people who are like, oh, I'm scared to register. I'm scared to say I'm a business. I'm scared to own that I'm a business owner. But then I'm like, so what are you doing? And they're like, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing these things on the side. And I'm like, so you're already a business owner? And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, you just need to now go sign that little piece of paper and pay your $60 and you have your license, and
you're in business.
Keep going. You're in business. So stop holding yourself back and take that leap, because you're already doing it and you're already quite capable of doing it. And that was one that I've recently met a few people, and I don't know if it's just where the world is right now or a generational thing, but I thought it was really fascinating.
Through a lot too. Yeah. And I would say that, and it's something that, and I've got a couple ideas here, because, to develop, not everybody is born with an entrepreneurial mindset, but people often ask me, is it possible to develop it? Is it possible to create it? And I'm like, absolutely, and so a couple ideas around that. And to your point, Angie, is, one would be sort of first is be establishing goals. What is it that you want to do with your business? What is the purpose? What is the vision? What's the intention? And then start thinking about, I always say, break it into, what do you want to accomplish in the first 6 months of your business? And then what do you want to accomplish in your first year of the business? And that's something that actually will appear in a business plan as well, too, which is really, because that's part of being very intentional. But find a way to write that down, record it. We do a lot of work with business model canvases, so that's a 1-page sort of everything you want to know about a business is on 1 page. It's a really easy tool to work with. But start recording those goals and say, here's what I want to accomplish. And then when you want to do is you want to practice. You want to work hard to practice each one of those goals and skill sets, right?
Yes.
You need to get very focused and intentional on your calendar. I'm a big fan of, you got to put in your calendar every activity that you're going to do to support your business, and then do it, right? And then keep doing it, right? Because it's not going to always catch on the first try. I love when people say, well, I sent an email and they never responded. Did you send another email? Did you follow up with a phone call? Did you follow up? And so it's again, it's keeping going with that cycle. I want to say
understanding the multiple touch points before a sale.
Exactly, right. And that's the only way you can get structured and bring, process to that, Angie, is to record it and then follow up with it and be consistent about that pattern and behavior. Because, once you keep regularly, so for example, if I have to answer emails, I might put an hour in my day every day at the beginning of the day from 9 to 10 o'clock, I'm going to answer emails. And every day, that's what I do. It's important to get that flow through and follow through, right? So it appears on my calendar. And then I got to do it, right? And I always say, pick things you don't like to do and do them first, right? If you can do that at the beginning of the day when you're energized, it's a new day, you're all ready to go, pick the stuff you really, what they say, there's an expression, eat your frog, I think they say. Some people like frogs, so I shouldn't, I'm not sure about that. But, you take that opportunity to do that first.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, then it's out of the way. And what an accomplishment. When we've done something that we really didn't want to do, or we were anxious about, or fearful, or maybe just like, I don't want to do this. And then we do it. Whoa, we're on the other side of that. So the rest of the day is like, great, this is now I can play. Now's the fun stuff that I love doing, right? I would say to that too, is don't be afraid to fail. There is no such thing as failure, right? Failure is, I don't love that term failure. It is something that I think is such a negative thing. Failure is just, try, you got to try, and don't be afraid to fall. If something doesn't work out, then try again, or reiterate, try again, do it again, ask questions, get some feedback. What could I do better? What could I change? What would be better, for me to going forward?
Well, and be willing to take that.
Be willing to take that.
That is one of those big ones that we tell a lot of business owners is you have to be willing to take those advice and actually do something. Like, even if it's not really flying with you, that's one thing. But if you ask for mentorship or ask for advice or ask for surveys or from anyone, whether it's clientele or other people in the industry,
absolutely,
you need to actually take it and not just disregard everything everybody's telling you because you know better.
Well, that's the part of being objective, right? Because there's lots of industry experts, and saying that, it's interesting because to your point, Angie, that there's lots of people who have opinions. So you have to be able to separate those from those that are strictly opinions and those that are actually know what they're talking about too, right?
Yeah,
and be able to and be willing to listen. Doesn't mean you have to follow every piece of advice, but it certainly would be helpful, right?
But at least have that critical thinking piece. Be willing to look at all the comments and advice, and even just critical thinking against your own business. Be able to step back and look at all the pieces. This is something we've talking about. It's week 1 right now is stepping. So it's something I've talked about all morning is that being able to put it all out on something like that business model canvas, or even just a notebook, and be able to step back and look at it as a whole. Because if you can't step outside of the then you're never going to see what things are missing. Maybe there's a piece in there that you can work on better or something to make it more successful.
And that's part of that facing those things and being honest is about facing your fears, right? Because a lot of times when things trigger us or feel uncomfortable, there's something behind that. So, for example, I'm not a numbers person. So the thought of me doing my own bookkeeping was always very, ugh. And when I had one of my businesses, I was the bookkeeper. So, I would, take care of my family. And then, I literally would run the business during the day, go home, take care of my family, put everybody to bed. And then I would go back to the office and work on bookkeeping till about 2:00 in the morning. And I had a fear. I felt like I had to control it and be in control of it, but it was a waste of those time was precious time I was missing out on rest, recharging, and time with my family, right? And then you start to resent it. So I faced my fear and said, okay, I got to let go of this part of it. My time is better served doing other things that will help the business. And once I did that and faced that fear of it and let go, it was really simple because we hired a bookkeeper who was awesome, gave me all the information I needed, and I didn't have to worry about it anymore, right? So it was kind of like just being really honest with yourself. What do I do well? Stick to that. And what I don't do well, find other avenues. And I will add to that, Angie, because you and I both know we have these conversations so often, is that, sometimes people say, well, I don't have a lot of money to start out with, so for example, if I did need a bookkeeper, I don't necessarily have the extra money. I would say to you two things. First of all, a really good bookkeeper will only charge you about $35 an hour-ish, and often $30 to $50. And honestly, you would probably, as a small business, only require them 1-2 hours a month. It is a business expense that can be recognized and deducted. But I would also say that, you can also use barter. Barter is a perfectly legitimate form that is recognized by Canada Revenue. So, if Angie was a bookkeeper and I said to her, listen, Angie, I can't really afford to pay you, but could I trade you? Could we barter X amount of dollars of worth of my product or X amount of dollars of my services that I offer? And Angie's like, heck yes, I can do that. Then I will give you the same equal amount in bookkeeping time, right? And now two entrepreneurs are helping each other. What a great story. And we're both getting what we need. Right. Yep. So you gotta get out of the box a little bit and think about, be creative about it for sure.
One of the other things that I wanted to bring up was imposter syndrome. And this is something we see a lot with entrepreneurs is how to get over that, because it's how to acknowledge that you can do this and you're an expert and that you're not just a failure and you're not just somebody who's winging it, who doesn't know what they're doing. And even if you are, you still need to own it because you'll get there.
Well, and you might be new to business, but you're not new to what you know, right? So somebody like that who's winging it, they still have the service that they provide or the product that they're knowledgeable about and they understand. So they're not new to what they know. So don't discount that, right? And then get the help and support to fill in those gaps of the stuff that you don't know, right? Because that's what we're here to do. That's what business centers do. And there's 47 business centers across Ontario. So, we're happy and very excited to serve the Guelph-Wellington region, but we have lots of our counterparts that do the same kind of system, same support. And folks, I just need to remind you, our services come through your taxpayers' dollars. Yes, I said that out loud. So, these are part of the taxes you pay to be able to take advantage of these services. So that's why you need to utilize them, right? Yeah. I'd say the last thing I was going to say, about developing a mindset is really about being curious, Angie, and look for opportunity, So I'm a very, I love talking to people, as you know. Angie and I are both not shy. And we always talk to people and then we'll come back to each other and say, I was talking to so-and-so the other day and they had a really good idea about this. And then we're like, okay, how can we turn this into a workshop? Or how can we turn this into a program? In fact, we just had this conversation about half an hour ago, didn't we, Angie? You brought to mind. So be curious, be interested, pay attention to what's going around. See what's, if you have if there's something you're interested in, see if there's any gaps that are missing. Maybe there's a business idea there or an aspect that you could fill in, things like that. But be open and curious and keep your head up. I mean, we're so busy looking down sometimes, we forget to look up and pay attention and be amazed at how you can get inspired by things. And that spark usually starts the whole idea, right? I can do better than this. I've been in this industry. I know better. I can create a better business model. I can create a better product. I can deliver a better service. And that's where it all starts. But it starts with a curiosity and looking up instead of looking down.
And that willingness to explore it, jump on it. We come up with ideas as a business center, even in our own businesses, probably every day, every couple of days. Like we're constantly have that notebook beside you, have that piece of paper or that keep notes on your phone, whatever it is, and jot it down, because you never know what, if you poke the right button, what will come out of those ones. And some of them you shake them a little bit and you look at them and you're like, I don't know, you shake it a little bit more and then you throw it out. And other ones you shake it and you're like, wow, this is great. And that's what
there it is, right?
going. So.
And we have lots of clients like that. And it's kind of like this, as you say, the cycle is sort of think about it, then you have the idea, then you come up with sort of a prototype or a testing of it, then you do it, you work with it, and then you get some feedback and information, and then you iterate, change up what you need to do, then you try it again and you keep trying. This is the cycle, right? You keep trying, and eventually you'll get to success. You'll get to a point where we talk about it in business terms as a minimal viable product or a minimal viable service. But once you have that magic piece there, that you've got all the bugs worked out, it's a nice, well-oiled machine, everything's working the way it's supposed to, that's when you're in business. And that's when you can look at scaling, right? Growth and things like that. So part of our job is to help you get to that place, right?
Yeah. And all you need really to start is motivation. And a little bit of drive and some excitement about what you're doing. Like it's not huge. The entrepreneurial mindset, I don't find, is that different than joining a sports team or joining a club or even just having a hobby. Like you get that initial spark of excitement, I should do this.
Yeah.
Well, then, you should really at least explore that possibility. So.
And hey, at the end of the day, if things don't work out, or maybe you explore an idea and you go down a path and it doesn't work out your way, you've still learned something. You've still grown as a human being. You know, those skill sets that you will learn when you journey on this journey are marketable skills. So even understanding about marketing and finance and operations and all those things as you do your research, when you have that understanding, those are skill sets that you can apply elsewhere, right? So to me, that's the point of no failure. You're always learning. That's what we're here to do, right? That's life. We're here to learn and grow and expand as human beings. So, there's always a positive end for that, for sure.
That's wonderful. So I think we covered most of it. We could probably talk about this for hours and hours on end. That's not a problem. But for any of you who are out there who are thinking about this, I do recommend and encourage you to book an appointment with one of our advisors. It's really simple. You can just go onto our website. You'll see a little thing on top right corner that says book now. It brings you to the client intake form. It literally asks you, I think, 4 questions, which is mostly your name and what day you're available. And then at the end, it gives you a link to one of our advisors' calendar. So then you can just book what time works best for you on there. And it's all through Zoom right now. We're still fully virtual. We're hoping to have an in-person thing soon, but for now we're still virtual. But it means that it doesn't matter where you are. You can be out in Wellington County. You can be local. We've had people overseas who just needed advisory services.
Lots of interesting people this last couple of years.
So we're here for you. Book an appointment and they will help you go through and poke at those ideas with you. They'll help you figure out how to make it viable. Because that's the thing, is sometimes you're like, oh, I don't think this is viable. But all you need is that second person that has been through it to look at it. And that's one of the benefits from our business center and most business centers, is that most of us have been through it in some format. All of the Guelph-Wellington business advisors, and including us too, who run the background, have all been business owners. So we've been in your shoes. Still are.
Angie and I all of our business advisors actually have their own businesses. Yeah.
So we're right there with you. We're right there pivoting. We're right there in the trenches. We are regularly looking at the trends. We are regularly assessing and reassessing our own businesses, as well as the business center, because it has its own things too. So do check out our advisory services. Do check out our programs. And Kristel, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say thanks. And thanks again, Angie, for setting this up. And absolutely. So, encourage you to check out our programs, our workshops. We have great stuff. I would also say to you, some of you who are existing business that happen to catch us today, we also work with growing strategies and things like that. So, if you want to walk through a scenario, I will say respectfully with, coming out of COVID and the recovery is going to be a couple, there's a lot of people sort of navigating, maybe they've taken on more debt during COVID times, things like that. So, if you need to have those conversations, please, again, book an appointment. As Angie's told you, we are all bound by confidentiality. Our services are covered under that. So our job is to help you sort of navigate, because there's some planning to do to be able to move through the next couple of years. So we're here to support you, whether you're doing business or expanding business. That's what we're here to do. Yeah.
The world is changing. So
isn't it? And it continues to change.
And it continues to change. And let's look at it on the most positive viewpoint. Absolutely. And so we have growth that we can do. So we're here to help you grow. Absolutely. So thank you again, Kristel. I will put for everybody watching all the links to our booking calendar, as well as to that business model canvas. I threw one into the chat. So if you want to take a look at it, I do recommend taking a peek at it. We work in partnership with a company called Sprint Point, who has some amazing resources for that. So I do say go out there, take a look at their resources. They're all for free business development stuff. So they're in the same trenches as we are, trying to help you out. And we will see you all again next week. So next week's session is, I should write my notes better, is 10 reasons to use QuickBooks. So we're doing a quick lunch and learn for QuickBooks. So if you're interested about QuickBooks, you have QuickBooks and you're not sure if you want to keep it, this probably be a great session for you. Again, it'll be streamed live here on Facebook, as well as posted on YouTube after the session. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you again, Kristel. Thanks, and everybody. Have yourselves all a great week. Bye, guys.
Have a great week. Take care.